France and the Holy Roman Empire still hate each other. In Bohemia, soon to become the Czech Republic in the 20th century, soon being a 400-year difference, some Catholic tax collectors go to see some Bohemians, and they're all like, yo, please pay up. You owe taxes to the Holy Roman Emperor. And they're all like, we'd rather throw you out a window. So they do. They throw these Catholics out a window. Footnote, I should have mentioned that. The Bohemians were Protestant. They were Lutheran. Okay, so they throw them out, chuck them out a window. The Catholics say, angels appeared from heaven, gently holding and guiding the men down to the ground so they landed without being injured. The Protestants are all like, yeah, they just fell in a bunch of poop. That's not what they say. They say a different word, but we're keeping it G-rated here, okay? Anyway, that's a good vocabulary word, defenestration. Defenestration means to throw someone out a window. This is a wonderful world we live in. And sometimes it's hard. I know there are bad days. But the fact we have a word that is specifically meant to address what it is called when someone is thrown out a window is a great, great language that we have. And many languages have defenestration. We have this word. It's beautiful. Try to use that word. Like next time like you drop something out a window, just be like, oh, I accidentally defenestrated that. Oops. It's classy. So, told you, get used to these Ferdinands. So here's Ferdinand II. He's the new Holy Roman Emperor. Ferdinand I, he's out with the old, okay? We got him. Here's his kid, dog. And his kid's not named Dog. I was saying there's a dog there. And this guy's all like, I guess those Bohemians need to be taught a lesson. And once more, over here is France. And France is all like, ha ha, another opportunity to go to war with the Holy Roman Empire. So, we will support the Protestants. I apologize if you're French. I'm just bored, and I'm trying to make this exciting just in case you're also bored. So, I apologize. I'm sorry, France. You were not very nice to me. I went there. You were nice to me. I threw up in Versailles, that was embarrassing. It's true. I ate like bad cheese. It's really not important right now. There are 4 phases. Phases of the 30 Years' War. You got the Bohemian phase. Again, nowadays this is Czechoslovakia. Who wins this one? Gotta give that to the Catholics. Holy Roman Empire. Check! French supported them, but they lost. Then we got the Danish phase. Oh, who wins on that one? Holy Roman Empire. Check. Then the Swedish phase, where it involves Gustavus Adolphus, who is one of the only Swedish names you need to know for the AP European history test. And again, French supported the Danish, French supported the Swedish. Holy Roman Empire, win! So finally the French are like, if you want something done, you gotta do it yourselves. And they're like, shh. And so I just discovered a secret. Just a second. Alright, so that was my text message tone, sorry. How am I supposed to remember? What is this? Big dogs swim fast. Bohemian, Danish, Swedish, French. Big dogs swim fast. Now again, I know they don't in real life especially, but I wanted you to be able to remember the different phases. So at least you remember, like, oh, generally speaking, where is most of the fighting happening? Oh, Bohemia. Okay, there's some Danish fighting. Sweden is involved. And, oh, the French. Boom. You know everybody involved in the 30 Years' War. You just got to remember the Holy Roman Empire part. But basically, it's right there on their doorstep, so it should be easy. This is a picture of dead people. Is there a dog? I bet there is. I bet there's a dog just off. It's just like back there somewhere. Here's Albert Durer, another dog. Right there. People love their dogs, even in the past. Here's another Northern Renaissance guy, again portraying this time the death that comes from the 30 Years' War. What is this? Somebody put this into my lecture. I guess one of my kids did it. I rate kings depending on how pimpin' they look. Gustavus Adolphus is a straight-up 10. Well, he's the Swedish leader. He did lose his phase, but I would have to confess, he does look a bit pimping. Okay, so in 1648, surprisingly 30 years after the war begins, that's why they call it the 30 Years' War, the Holy Roman Empire settles with France, and they recognize the independent authority of all the German princes. This is the nail in the coffin of the Holy Roman Empire's hold on Central Europe. The Holy Roman Empire no longer has drastic control over these German states. They're pretty much independent at that point. Bad news, there's about 300 of them. So that's a little bit rough. The Catholic Church is no longer involved in German affairs. Augsburg, that whole principle of Augsburg stands, where you have he who rules his religion. Only big difference is that it's he who rules his religion, so you can be Catholic, Lutheran, and then they add Calvinism. So that's nice. That's a nice gesture. And France can do whatever they want because they won. And they also take Alsas, which is this little charming little border place around the border with Germany that doesn't really exist just yet. It'll become important like maybe next semester when we start talking about Germany as a state that actually gets into wars with France and stuff. So it's worth remembering that maybe that France first took it here. So let's kind of bring it back to where are we now? It's 1648. What religion is everybody anyway? Well, we got the Eastern Orthodox fellas over here. That's Russia and the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire is not Eastern Orthodox. Why are they the same color? They would be Muslim. Oh, it says Muslim. Okay, so over to here. So this is all Eastern Orthodox. Eastern Europe, pretty much, with the exception of Russia, obviously, pretty much Catholic. You'll notice Poland will be stubbornly Catholic. You'll notice it goes down into the Papal States. You've got a lot of Catholicism there. That just makes sense. Northern Europe is staunchly Lutheran. You'll notice that basically northern states tend to be very Lutheran, but the southern Germanic states do tend to be Catholic. And then over here, France is very Catholic, but you'll notice there are areas of Calvinist influence. Okay, there is these swaths here of blue. Now, I don't know who the genius that made this map is, but they made the same. Look at this. See, I'm drawing here. This is the ocean. That's the English Channel there, and here is France. Here's the land. Like, maybe if you have a pretty good monitor, you can tell the difference, but at a casual glance, that's a bit confusing. Guys, it's a computer. You can use more than like 6 colors. You know, it's open-ended. It's like 256 back when I was first using a CGA monitor. One of those CRT monitors, big old things, not even a flat screen. Anyway, up here in Ireland, you'll notice they stay pretty Catholic. This is relevant later. And the Church of England is now taking hold. That is there. And over here in parts of Ireland, notice there are some Catholic pockets of England. But again, under Elizabeth, the whole don't ask, don't tell, Elizabethan settlement is keeping them under lock and key. And then in the north of Scotland, you have Calvinism in the form of the Presbyterian Church that was championed by John Knox. What about the Age of Exploration? Well, we're just going to talk about a couple of things kind of briefly here. We should know about the different motivations for European exploration. Trade. They want to find new places to trade with and things to take from the new places they find. Fame and fortune. They want to become famous. They're curious. They don't know what's out there. One cool thing about humans is we're always curious about what's out there. and a desire to spread the Christian faith. That's missionaries. And I wanted to give you some way to kind of remember that. So, the fat cat meowed. That is a fat cat. That is not my cat. At one point, my cat was a bit fatter. This is not my cat. It is a beautiful kitty. Oh, hello. Hello, how you doing? You should know about the different new technologies that allow the age of exploration. Now, in my class, I don't spend a ton of time on this. I just figure, look, you guys already talked about exploration when you were younger. So, I mean, look, just remember that stuff. What you do need to know, I'll cover in here. But the other stuff, Okay, so they had better maps as a result partially of things like the compass. The astrolabe allows them to kind of figure out where they are in relation to the stars, what we would call latitude and longitude, and what they start using as such. You've got faster ships that can go further. If you ever played Age of Empires, you know you can't go off of or Civilization. You know you got to stay right there on the coast, otherwise you might lose your ship. But now they can go across. If you're not a video game nerd, then never mind about what I just said. And you got better weapons. Pow! Ladies, you're welcome. That's right, I cleared out for this one. This is Prince Henry the Navigator. Portugal doesn't get the spotlight very often. Here we go. Portugal, where you at? Here I am. Or, he's not British. I don't know why he talks like that. He's all like, yo, I totally support navigation. In fact, I'm going to open up a school for navigation. I will call it the School of Navigation. Thanks, Prince Henry. Of course, you've heard of Columbus, who sailed the ocean blue in 1492, the same year the Reconquista ended too, over in Spain, where they got rid of the Muslims and Jews. It's really quite horrible. Columbus, you know, he discovered the New World. You probably also know that's a bit dicey to say he discovered the New World, because he wasn't even aiming for the New World. He was aiming for the West Indies. The trick wasn't that people thought that the world was flat. I know that's what your elementary school teachers told you, but this is false. The problem was they didn't know how big the world was. So Columbus thought, okay, if I sail west from Spain, I'm going to get to the other side of Asia. He didn't realize there was a whole continent in between Europe and Asia. And it happens to be us, well, at least where I'm recording this, North America, Central America, South America. We just call it America. And he didn't know about that. So he discovered it, kind of. And, you know, there were sort of people here before. But he discovers it. And goes back to Spain, and he's all like, guys, you will never guess what I found. A bunch of slaves and gold, which is really quite horrible. And you can make up your own mind on that one. It is significant, though, from a historical perspective of, well, yeah, he brought Europeans over to the New World, what we call the New World. I mean, the Indians, the Native Americans, they were already aware it was there. That did change history. So we can't totally discount it, but at the same time, you could see where it might be problematic since it killed over 20 million Native Americans, having the Europeans come over and bring their diseases and stuff. So there's that. A bunch of explorers did stuff. If you're really interested, you can pause this right now. I was just pretending to pause in case you were like, wait a second, did I pause? Ferdinand Magellan was the first guy to circumnavigate the world. He went all the way around it. He actually went the route that is on the map, not just like this. Make sure when you are talking about Magellan, it's circumnavigation, not circumcision. I've had that appear in essays from students more than once, and while it is always hilarious, it is the wrong word. Some came over to look for a mythical city of gold. The road to El Dorado. It didn't work because there is no mythical city of gold. There's two conquerors that are worth knowing about. There's someone knocking. These are my children. My children showed up. Say hi, kids.
Hi.
Do you have a message about the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Spanish should have conquered them. They're mean.
Meanies.
It's fair. It's true. Oh, sorry for the interruption, everybody. My kids just stopped by, so I decided, you know what, let's just incorporate them. Anyway, I just want you to know certain names. Like the Aztec Empire, they were felled by Cortes. I've pictured left, the one that says Cortes. And the Aztecs are represented by this, I guess, represents the entire Aztec Empire. I don't know. Anyway, he divides and conquers, basically. Much is made of the idea that he portrayed himself as a god, taking advantage of native superstition. But this is kind of exaggerated. Most historians don't buy that the Aztecs truly believed that he was the embodiment of a god or anything like that. He won. He won. The Incas, it's really hard to find pictures of the Incas. I want to just go on record as saying that on Google Image. Pizarro is the one that actually defeats the Incas, so I want you to know that. Similar, not as many men as there were Incas, but he manages to take them out through a combination of deceit and I mean, you can give the guy credit. I mean, he was good at what he was doing, just what he was doing was, you know, tricksy. Of course, as soon as the Native Americans are defeated, they are enslaved, and it's actually, if you really think about this, this is awful, of course, but the reason that they eventually had to move to African slaves is because disease from Europe, which the Native Americans had no immunity to, was responsible for killing something like 25 million Native Americans. So they had a labor shortage. So that's what caused them to start looking elsewhere. The Cyclic Conquest usually goes like this. You have explorers, then it becomes conquistadors, conquerors. Then missionaries follow the conquerors. You have permanent settlers, and then it becomes an official European colony. You could see the value of gold and silver from Spanish America is quite huge. You know, back in 1492, nothing basically, and then you're going up, 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 up. Problem is, this creates inflation within Spain because they are on the gold standard. So if you suddenly introduce a ton of gold, gold becomes less valuable. Then the African nations begin to supply slaves to populate these new colonies, which are becoming quite profitable. This, of course, is the transatlantic slave trade. Slavery wasn't invented by the Europeans. It had existed in Africa, but the thing was, you have slavery in many different places. It's not usually based off race or whatever. It's just based off, hey, our guys beat your guys. When the Europeans come in, they already had these notions that Africans were somehow less human than them, than the Europeans. So this just is used to like reinforce these beliefs, like, oh, it's okay to do this thing. It's okay to trade in slaves because our belief system says these people aren't truly human. They're barbaric. They worship pagan gods. You know, they're not civilized. They're naked. So it's okay what we're doing. Now, of course, in real life, it is not okay. But that's the justification that the Europeans used. And between the 16th and 19th century, about 10 million Africans are shipped to the Americas. This is a famous drawing of conditions on a slave ship. Obviously, it's quite miserable, as you would expect. This is bad for, well, obviously for the Africans, but it's especially bad for these new colonies because you're destroying cultures, the Native Americans and the Africans. All of this gold and silver going into Europe create inflation, which I already mentioned. New products are introduced. Actually, did you know horses came over with the Spanish? Horses weren't native to the Americas. But the new products introduced, this is kind of a comprehensive, but not, I'm sure it's not comprehensive. I'm sure there's other stuff. You have stuff that's going over from the New World to Europe. Squash, turkey, coca, peanut, tomato. I don't know why I felt the need to put that in red there. Potato, corn, or maize. Tobacco is a huge cash crop. Cash crop, something you can't eat, but can be sold at a huge profit. And of course, the disease that the New World gives to the Europeans is syphilis. The Europeans trade trinkets, liquor, and guns over to Africa, and then they take things over to the New World, such as things that weren't already in the Americas: coffee, sugarcane, smallpox and malaria, and measles, and whooping cough, and typhus, and diphtheria, and the flu. And these are problematic, obviously. I do not know how they shipped over honeybees. I'm fascinated by this every time I have this slide. As I already mentioned, native populations are ravaged by disease, and colonial rivalries are deepened. Countries will be competing with each other. Ultimately, this will lead to war in some cases, fighting over profitable trade routes, slave routes, quite frankly, the acquisition of slaves, which is profitable but horrible, obviously,